Hello there, and welcome to Adonai in Art, where we look at temporary art and put it under the lens of the eternal artist. As always, I'm your host, Noel Davison, and I am so thankful that you are here with me today. Alright, Win or Lose, Episode 4. We are going to officially hit the halfway point by the end of this episode. Praise God. This has been a bit more of a challenge, as I've made no secret in the past few episodes, but man, I'm still excited to get to tackle these, especially because there's still so many great stories and topics that we can go forward with a biblical perspective going forward. And so for this one, we're going to be focusing in on a character that in the previous two Win or Lose episodes, I have not talked about in a particularly good light. I have been pretty irked by this character, actually. It's a sassy, expressive madre who is obsessed with her phone and being a cool mom, though it is constantly brought into question if she is a legitimately cool mom or even a good mom. Yes, today this episode's main character is Vanessa Rodriguez, the pink-haired, fiery woman that we have seen in episode 2 and episode 3. From the parent-teacher conference to quitting her job, we have not really been shown a great side of this character, nor her maturity. And because of my emotions and connection towards Frankie and Rochelle's characters in the previous two episodes, and seeing their perspectives of Vanessa, I might not have thought of her in much of a positive light in this whole show until today's episode. And God, thank you for that. Because the writers of Win or Lose reminded me of a truth that honestly I wish I had remembered, but it's one that I'm glad I was reminded of because it always stays true. There is a human being behind every flaw. There is a human, and no matter how much those flaws try and obscure someone, they are a soul, they are a child of God. And that's the heart of Jesus, that no one's too far gone. A heart that will have meals with tax collectors, sinners, the disregarded, the homeless, the meek, the lowly. And no matter what they've done, how they might be acting in that moment, he is still the same God who will love Peter while he is disobeying or speaking arrogantly, who will love Thomas when he refused to believe that God had risen. And he loves all of us, even though we mess up and sin all the stinking time and hurt him in ways we may not even know. He is still good and loving, and he does not look at us as just mistakes, but as his children. And so thank God for that truth. And because of that, I am excited to dive into my fresh perspective and just talk about what Win or Lose episode 4 has to offer. So let's get right into episode 4, Pickle. And honestly, I still don't really know why this episode's called Pickle. Maybe it's because of the pickle she's in, but everyone in the show kind of gets stuck in a pickle, so maybe it's representing the team Pickle? I don't know. Anyway, episode 4, Pickle. The episode starts with the beep of a cash register in a grocery store. The colors are dim, gray, and there are 3 employees who are just doing their job with so little enthusiasm. Like imagine McDonald's teenager levels of low enthusiasm, but like an air of depression. But in comes an upbeat pop song followed by a bubbly woman with pink hair that we've become well acquainted to, Vanessa.
Vanessa, as she's carrying a box of donuts, glides with pink particle beams behind her glide.
Okay, I knew I needed to at least get one Daredevil reference in there because I've been watching so much of it. Anyway, so yes, Vanessa is carrying a box of donuts, glides with pink particle beams behind her, and she goes up to one guy and asks Josh how the kids are. His face immediately brightens up with pink light and he goes, "Oh, they're great, thanks for asking." After saying, "Oh, you know I care," she glides to a passed out coworker on the floor who was putting stuff in the freezer, places a donut in her mouth, and wakes her up with a hip bump, which powers her up with pink light as well. She then tosses the donut into the mouth of Van, who thanks her. Each employee gets their own pink particle effect with the pink light, each affected by Vanessa's contagious joy and energy. And before the song in the background fully takes over for a few seconds, Vanessa explains, "Guess what? It's Rochelle's playoff game today!" And she's wearing a pickle hat too, so she's representing. As the music goes through, she's TikTok dancing, the song is talking about feeling herself, the broom magically sweeps alongside her, she hums along to the song, she is just riding high on joy. But then gets snapped out of the moment by her angsty teen boss, who is so angsty he's got one earring, a backwards hat, and even has the slack jaw of a puberty-filled teen who doesn't care about his life. Like, If you just look up a picture of Angsty Teen from Win or Lose episode 4, it is an immaculate design. He tells Vanessa that she'll need to stay late since a coworker called in sick, before checking his phone again and goes, "Oh, sorry, she's sick of me." Probably just autocorrect. Vanessa then gets a phone call, and the second she pulls her phone out, boss says, "No phone calls." Turns out it's from the daycare her boy Zane is at. And she promises that it'll be quick, but boss keeps going, "No. But after wide-eyed staring at him like a deer staring at your oncoming car, she answers the phone. We don't hear exactly what's going on, but we hear Vanessa say, "Oh, is he okay? Is my Zane okay?" And she ends the call by saying, "Oh, I'll be right there." She starts speed walking away from her station, presumably the deli station in a Walmart type store based on the shelves that were there. Vanessa promises to be right back. Not in a beggy way, but I'm going to do this because I said so way. Like, yeah, I'll be right back. But boss responds that if she leaves, he's going to have to let her go. Vanessa goes, "Please, I'm sure we can work this out." But again, her tone stays the same as in episode 2 and 3. It's not a genuine ask. She's trying to say the right thing just to get her way. And after 2 back and forth shots, Vanessa goes, "Fine, my baby needs me." And she floats into the air like Peter Pan, claps twice, and she's teleported out of her uniform in front of the daycare. We don't hear anything the teacher says, but only Vanessa's response. "Blame my kid? Really? Zane is so full of life." And then as her hand gets close enough to Zane, he bites her. Ow! Okay, he has a wonderful spirit. Ow! And if he did pick up any bad habits, Zane goes for round 3 in this, but she shoves a squeaky ball from her purse into Zane's mouth. It's the Pixar ball, actually, as a matter of fact. Cool detail show. And Vanessa's final line goes, "What about second chances?" And this is the same kind of talk she had with Frank, completely defending her children without humoring the possibility that they might be wrong. She's acting in pride again. And I still stand by what I said at the beginning of the episode. We're seeing the first steps of this, and not only her growth, but we're about to see her human side a bit more, that makes her a bit more sympathetic. Based on the song with lyrics like "Express Yourself," it's pointing towards her self-empowerment. And while I do get bummed seeing her lose her job at the daycare, that is pretty hard to deal with, it's her way of handling all previous situations that led her to this moment. Pride comes before the fall for a reason. Our immaturity in situations that lead us from our desired destinations. And like I said, we see this human side now. The answer is no. As the door shuts with Zane crying, Vanessa lightly hits her head against the steering wheel of her car. The colors behind her go back to gray, dreary like it's a rainy day, and little lines have grown under Vanessa's eyes to show her exhaustion. As Zane wails, Vanessa goes, "Please, Zane, that's enough." And I'm sure that line hit many parents who have been in this situation. I gotta ask my mom and dad if that hit them. Vanessa decides to pull her phone from her car holder. She takes a deep breath and starts to live stream again. But unlike the previous times where she's been all, "Hey everybody, we're gonna do this, blah, 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 blah," she says, "Hey friends, it's one of those amazing days where everything goes absolutely wrong." Again, it's not taking accountability for anything she did to contribute to this. Now, I'm not trying to say we're not allowed to feel sad through rough days. Absolutely, we should be allowed to feel sad when cruddy things happen. But most of this has still been her actions. But we see her audience comfort her. They personify as little hearts with smiley faces popping out of her phone and validating her. They separately say lines with multiple people commenting, "Oh, it's okay, we understand, one step at a time." The hearts swarm her like pink digital clouds. And she says, "Thank you, you've always been there for me." The hearts go, "We understand, we've always been there." And like little balloons, they all pop as the live stream ends. Vanessa takes a deep breath, the lines under her eyes have disappeared, and she closes the box of red Valkyries that she bought for Rochelle, as we saw last episode. With a golden glow on her face, which I think has indicated joy and warmth in the show, though the Heavenly Father parallels for Lori still match, Vanessa writes, "So proud of you, Roshi. Love, Mom," ending with a sparkle of stars. And what I like is that it's spoken in genuine care. It shows Vanessa's true heart behind it. From Rochelle's perspective, it was all just an elaborate scheme or just a way to show off to her followers, and that perspective probably is still valid, but this is showing Vanessa's heart is in the right place. She means it well. And what's interesting here, like I said, it completely changed my perspective. I originally did want to say, like, oh, these followers are clearly just an indication of craving validation through social media, and I thought that might be where the episode was going. But no, the followers end up being helpful. Maybe there's an undertone of followers being used to crave validation or affirm ourselves, but I don't think that's what the episode focuses on. It might be in the sidelines, but that's not what the show is telling me. It's not telling me being a live streamer is bad, which is good because I don't really think that. And while maybe the followers are a mask for Vanessa's problems, the followers seem to genuinely give her comfort. Vanessa is trying to be a good mom. She's trying to provide for her kids, and she's doing what she can to stay sane. And live streaming seems to be that platform for her. In the same way that Spider-Man can be a platform that can help me deal with stuff. That the Bible can be something so comforting, hearing sermons, worship music. And so immediately that knocked down my bias that Vanessa was just a basic influencer and a real complex person. Full kudos to the show for knocking down my bias and writing her so well. And I don't mean to say this like any of the voice acting has been bad up to this point. Everyone has done a spectacular job. But I want to give special props to Vanessa's voice actor, Rosa Salazar. She has gone from hilarious to arrogant to genuine in literal seconds of her performance, perfectly capturing the complex canvas of how we humans feel and act on a day-to-day basis. She's amazing. We cut to the semifinal game. Vanessa's car has "Go Rochelle number 7" spray painted on the back of it. As she hustles to get her kid out the car, we hear her say, "It's like everyone makes it look so easy." We cut to a considerably bigger cloud of pink digital heart followers floating next to her as she runs, like she's talking to an old friend. Vanessa goes, "Sometimes I feel like I'm barely hanging." Oh, ow, buddy, please. She gets cut off by Zane biting her, and she goes, "Deja, deja," the Spanish word for let. Love when Spanglish is incorporated into media. I'm hoping I didn't flub those words. As Zane continues to chomp down, even growing shark teeth each time he bites, great detail, Vanessa sarcastically says, "I don't know whose kid this is. Somebody needs to come get their kid." And then she gives a fake wheeze laugh and says she's kidding and loves him. Once again, bragging on how relatable the show gets. I've struggled with doing this several times when I say something honest or how I'm feeling, and then I try and cover it up with a jokey manner with a laugh, so that way it can maybe sound more kidding, like lighten, watered down what I'm saying. Normally because I'm afraid of causing trouble. The delivery perfectly conveys this. Kudos to Miss Salazar. She continues, No, I love my kid." And then her eyes get big, her face gets serious, and she nods saying, "I do." Reassurance from herself she does? Maybe, I don't know. But she quickly changes the subject, and Vanessa tells her followers, "Gracias a Dios, my Roshi is on the right track." Thank God, in case you didn't catch it. He's still on the show, everybody. Our Heavenly Father is there, even if that's a common phrase. I don't care. Lori talked about him. I love Lori, and I love the show is talking about him again. But on saying this, Vanessa turns her gaze toward Rochelle, showing that she is watching Roshi play, despite our previous perspectives. And as Vanessa cheers on her daughter from the stands, mom bragging she's the best player in the state, an honor roll student, and her pink cloud sticks with her during it. It even blocks the view of another adult watching, this blonde-haired man, and this guy shoves past the hearse and tells Vanessa to sit down, and even adds, "Vanessa, every week it's the same." So this is a regular problem for Vanessa to do. And even though the hearts weren't there from his perspective, it's a good mental image of how disruptive people can be at these kind of events, where they're so loud and expressive, where they feel like they're verbally able to obscure our focus from the game because they're so loud. The guy is not blameless though, because then he starts to say, "Rochelle is a mediocre catcher at best." Like, oh my gosh, dude. And with the snap of Vanessa's fingers, his mouth is literally zipped shut, and after a look up and down, her clouds guard her from him. That little judgy, look. She turns to see Rochelle tag out a player and point it out to her. And in this perspective, Vanessa is genuinely watching and cheers for her. But we remember from episode 3, it looked like she was just staring at her phone. The presence of all those hearts doesn't make me surprised. That's the reason Roshi only saw her mother's attention on her phone. Vanessa sees the hearts as her supporters, which in a sense I think they genuinely are. They're there with Vanessa. But Rochelle, with everything we've seen from her episode, sees those hearts as Vanessa's idols. We cut to the end of the game. Vanessa is sitting on the park bench as we saw in episode 3, and she's changing Zane's diaper while talking to her boss. She apologizes for leaving and starts to promise to make up hours, but boss cuts her off by saying, "You're fired," and he hangs up. Rochelle calls for her and runs over. Vanessa turns around and doing 2 pink particled finger snaps, she masks her sadness and the bags in her eyes with her influencer face. Vanessa congratulates Rochelle for the win, and her daughter hands her the game ball, and I'm assuming this takes place before the parent meeting we saw last episode. Rochelle says, "Here's the game ball. If you want it, it's whatever though." And I like that little detail. Rochelle does want her mother's affection, like we saw. She does love and care about her. And Vanessa asks her to sign it. And Rochelle writes #1 mom on it. Another callback. And one that'll be a surprising piece of evidence later, but we'll get to that. Vanessa lies when Rochelle asks how was work. Vanessa goes, "Oh, never better." And then she turns on her phone to move on from it. And to celebrate Rochelle. And that's what I'm trying to say with this. Phones are inherently evil devices. There's great things that can be used to capture moments on a camera like this. But I think what Win or Lose is showing us from these different perspectives is how a phone can be excessively used. That's not the main focus of this episode, but I like it's a detail that still lingers in the background of all these episodes. The next morning, Vanessa turns off her alarm and her phone background is the picture they took. That's cute. Vanessa immediately hops on her live stream with the hearts emerging. One even says, "Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey." Vanessa responds, "Good morning, friends." She goes back to sleep, but the hearts decide to converge and lift her off the couch. And Vanessa goes, "Alright, just gotta get up and face the day." After washing her face off in the sink, she snaps her fingers and she transforms into an energized lady with business clothes on. And Vanessa goes, "And let me tell ya, it's gonna be a day." We see Rochelle studying with a book, which is probably from the beginning of her hustle. And then another heart calls Vanessa an invincible queen as she heads out on the day with Zane. We start a montage where Vanessa goes through the back and forth process of applying for jobs and training Zane not to bite people, with a song in the background about conquering the day. She says, "Be nice to Bear, Zane. Bear has feelings, just like Mama's fingers." And we see a reversal of the scene in episode 3 where Vanessa leaves at night. Rochelle is studying, now clearly paralleling last episode with the multiple mugs of coffee and computer screens, and Rochelle hears Vanessa leaving as her going out on the town and not being responsible. But in this episode, we learn what was actually happening. Vanessa meant it in simple mother love, even adding "te quiero" at the end. She tells her heart swarm that she just wants her babies to have it better than she did. And as the camera focuses in on the #1 mom softball on the car's dashboard, Vanessa says, "I'll do whatever it takes." A pink light illuminates from a car symbol, and it turns out Vanessa is a part of an Uber-like business now to help make extra money. And she calls this Van's van, Vanessa Van, haha. And when she drives people, including Francis, who just tunes her out, weird people do need a break from people sometimes, Vanessa turns out to be that Uber driver that forces conversation. And all of it eventually goes back to how proud she is of Rochelle. It may be a lot, but I do love seeing how much she loves her daughter. The pink light from Vanessa's car zooms around the neighborhood as she continues to work. A similar song from the supermarket plays behind Vanessa, like I said, called "Feeling Myself," adding to her confidence as she continues to work and then pass out on the couch from exhaustion each night. The montage cycle repeats with Vanessa adding, "I'm so proud of you, Roche, but enough studying, go to bed." It repeats again with the heart swarm lifting her from the bed. Then it seems like she's found success at an interview for a gym, though Zane does attack the guy's face like a rabid dog. This boosts Vanessa's confidence to where she does her finger snapping magic on Rochelle's table, while she's passed out, of course. Vanessa fixes the dishes with his finger snap, she continues driving, Zane calms down his biting, and Vanessa's just feeling good and in control of life. She begins working at Hiveline Gym, which includes an all-hour daycare, flexible hours in PR, and free classes for all employees, which Vanessa responds to each of these with a "girl!" And with this confidence, Vanessa begins to climb pink pillars with hearts surrounding her that keep personifying. She yells, "Knock down those doors! Break those glass ceilings! Don't hold back!" And at this point, the pink light is at its brightest in the montage, and she lands back in her house with a powerful pink meteor-like crash. Same kind of smoothness as Rochelle's catch. But then Vanessa gets a phone call from Mr. Brown. Here it goes. And while Vanessa is exercising and immediately builds into bragging about Rochelle, asking if he's calling because, maybe she got a new award, Mr. Brown says, "I wanted to speak because Rochelle cheated on a test." And that makes Vanessa stop. hold still. And all she can say is, huh? A clever detail I like is that the sunlight that was pouring into the living room before this immediately dims once Frank's words are said, and it becomes a more melancholy orange, if that makes any sense. Frank repeats the statement as Vanessa stares at Rochelle, shocked that her perfect girl could maybe even do such a thing, that someone could even imply that. Vanessa starts to go into denial as the light goes lower and lower until it's a dim gray. Vanessa says, I'll call you back. And she takes a deep breath and goes into mom mode, from her perspective anyway. And she says, Rochelle Kiana, your teacher said you cheated on a test. Is that true? And Zane even says, cheater, along with it. Rochelle starts by saying, no, And then we get the same words from episode 3. But we now see that they're sincere. Zane emphasizes Rochelle saying that she messed up. And then Vanessa goes, okay, thank you for being honest, because I raised you to be that way, and I did not raise a cheater. But unlike episode 3, where it's not like, and I did not raise a cheater, it's more of a stern, because I did not raise a cheater. And I'm wondering if when Zane said, messed up, he emphasized this in real life, or if it's symbolizing the weight there is for Vanessa realizing her precious girl did something wrong. And during this moment where Rochelle is talking, I like that the table light over Rochelle's counter shines on her like she's in an interrogation room, just like episode 2. It's the idea that she's being put in the hot seat. And upon Roche saying, this kid asked me to pass it, the bags under Vanessa's eyes disappear, and she nods with a smile. It conveys that, okay, my daughter is a saint after all. She's not the one to blame. Good, good, good. And I imagine that relates to moms when they hear their child did something wrong from another adult, but on a larger scale with the struggle Vanessa has. So with a hop and a clap, Vanessa is in Frank's classroom from episode 2. We start the scene after her interrogation, and now she's starting by finishing her defense statement like she's a lawyer. She even adds Valley Girl hand claps when she says, and that proves that Rochelle was at the wrong place at the wrong time. We get the same line from episode 2. You don't want to make the wrong call here, do you? But in this episode, Frank stonewalled this whole time, probably using his mental armor. He's just not moving, not budging. But then Vanessa claps to send out a particle star that turns the whole room pink and whammos Frank. So then his face goes into a goofy grin and he goes, oh, I've made a big mistake, haven't I? And the way I perceive it is that Vanessa's pride is overtaking her reality, even in her perspective, because of this exaggerated grin. It's the like, oh, he made a mistake. And Vanessa is confusing herself now by going, okay, that all's fixed. And Vanessa finishes the conversation by saying, I don't raise quitters, Frank. She kicks open the door, and Frank's room is now completely pinkified. Bam! Got that sorted out. High five, Zane. But as we enter the hallway, we see gangly people all over the ceiling. It's really creepy. And then they crawl with spider-like limbs. And as Vanessa turns, we see them land on the ground and march forward in synchronized steps. Again, what freaks. These people have shadows all over them as they approach. And Vanessa can't see who they are until they're right in front of her. Possibly symbolizing that Vanessa doesn't remember who they are until they're right there. And they turn out to be the greatest monster of all. Judgmental parents! One even has a Karen haircut. That's how you know these people are dangerous. I love they even have a green light illuminating under them to add to their menace, like they're classic Disney villains. And it turns out these parents are a part of the PTA, and they start this game of hounding Vanessa by saying, oh, it must be so hard for you to get away from work. I don't know how you do it. If I had to raise one of these guys alone, I'd just be a wreck. I don't remember if the Karen haircut had a Minnesotan accent, but you know what? It just felt right. Trying to get away from these parents, Vanessa goes, oh, nah, my Roshi makes it easy. She's at home now burning the midnight oil on some homework. But as Vanessa turns to leave, other parents pop up behind her to further hound her about leaving her kid at home. Like, oh, that's so irresponsible. That's what you shouldn't do. And then Vanessa gets surrounded by parents asking why she doesn't monitor her daughter. One even says, I monitor all of my daughter's accounts. And Vanessa in this moment tries to clap twice, just like she did with Frank, with the house, trying to solve her problems, but this time it doesn't work. The adult's identical black vest they've been wearing start to inflate around her, showing that further pressure they're putting on her. And while Vanessa keeps clapping, it's not working. With no other choice, she karate kicks everyone down and lays on the sass. All right, listen up. First off, I would never violate my daughter's privacy. I've raised her to be strong, smart, beautiful, hilarious, and capable. I trust my daughter 100%. But after saying that, she tries her hand claps again, and it still doesn't work. A collapsed mom explains the symbolism. You can feel the lies. Feel them. And Vanessa heads out the school towards her car, which is parked incredibly slanted. She takes a deep breath once her and Zane are in the car. She pulls out her phone to text on it, and her gaze goes toward the number 1 mom's softball. Vanessa pulls out the cheat sheet from her purse, and after staring at them from a prolonged period of time, she realizes the number 1s are identical, so indeed there's a connection. And what I like about that is how the show keeps jump cutting between the ones from the cheat sheet to the softball until eventually they come together and merge into a single number, and then she dramatically gasps. Took a second to digest reality, huh? Well, next morning, Vanessa is making pancakes, and instead of making bacon pancakes, she is just not having it. She hands Rochelle a Mickey Mouse pancake, and when it's placed down, it has a bacon mouth that yells, "No, no, no!" But Rochelle seems completely zoned out of the conversation while she's texting on her phone. Vanessa sits down and continues hinting about the test. So that cheating thing was nuts. And Vanessa continues to lay on the pressure about how crazy it was as she pops off the syrup bottle just by squeezing it and then pours it all over the pancake that she then eats in one bite. Rochelle doesn't even seem to register her mom at all until Rochelle puts her phone in her fanny pack and walks away with a tired thumbs up. Vanessa sighs with exhaustion as Rochelle leaves, and it made me interested to see Rochelle's perspective on this scene. My guess is that while we see Vanessa is truly trying to get to the truth of what happened with her daughter, Vanessa is not able yet to get a confession because that's not the kind of mom she's been, and that Rochelle isn't affected by any pressure because what pressure is there? Heck, from an outside perspective, this might have sounded like casual talk instead of the laying on of a parent. But getting back to the story, Rochelle's phone buzzes and lights up in front of Vanessa. And while she stares at it, the phone, true to its bunny ears phone case, literally hops across the table until it's in front of Vanessa to show a text message. At first, Vanessa puts it back, trying to value her daughter's privacy. But when the phone buzzes again, she stares at baby Zane in the eyes and uses basically manipulation. She shakes her head, which Zane mimics. Then she nods her head, and Zane mimics. With determination, Vanessa holds Zane over the phone so he can bite onto the bunny ears. But then Rochelle comes back and is like, "Mom?" And Vanessa and Zane freeze. They're like, "Oh, crap." But then Rochelle, in her exhaustion, turns around and goes, "Never mind." And so they get the phone. Vanessa uses Zane's hand to unlock the key code on the phone. And during the phone type, she goes, "Oh, Zane, no, bad boy." Still not a great parent, but at least she's starting her journey to be better. Through violation of privacy, but point is, at least there's a start here. Not good, but there's a start. The head of a cyber avatar pops into view, whose likeness and voice is that of stupid, manipulative, leechy, peepy, needlessly preparing, texting Tom. He thanks Rochelle for the help, and while Vanessa starts in denial, going, "Oh, that can mean anything," Tom follows up the text with, "Cheating! Next time don't get caught." Gosh, I haven't wanted to wish violence on a fictional character this bad since the stormtrooper who punched Baby Yoda, or the Imperial officer who shoved over B2EMO from Andor. I gotta talk about those shows at some point. But man, this is like Tom, this stupid, manipulative, leechy, peepy, needlessly preparing, texting, overstating the obvious Tom. But Vanessa is still in denial that her daughter is anything less but a perfect little angel. So Vanessa comes to the conclusion that this boy caused her to cheat. Vanessa literally says he's the one corrupting her. And Vanessa impulsively grabs the phone to text Tom back, likely to text as the mom. But with Vanessa's back turned toward the counter, it makes the unfortunately perfect window of time for Rochelle to grab her fanny pack and run. And that's why Rochelle didn't have her phone. In a scheme to find this boy, Vanessa changes her tune and texts while talking like a teen girl going, "Hi, it's me, Rochelle. You wanna hang out?" Zane even emulates the sassy eyes Vanessa has while she's texting. I love it. Vanessa pulls up Tom's contact photo and sees that it's in fact the boy across the street. And Tom is just standing outside behind his fence, completely zoned out. So he's a stupid, manipulative, leechy peepee, needlessly preparing, texting, overstating the obvious, now staring into the void while he's just outside for no reason, Tom. And I'm not going to repeat that last part for this bit. It's getting too long, man. We cut to Vanessa outside in her car, waiting for the scoundrel. And after a hilarious shot where Tom puts out the garbage bin and then fully extends to reveal his true height, Vanessa goes, ooh, he's a tall boy. But why was Tom even doing that? Why was he walking like a weird crab? Stupid, manipulative, leechy, peepee, needlessly preparing, texting, crab crawling Tom. But Vanessa calls out to Tom, asking if he wants a ride. And Vanessa, I know you're fictional, but I'm going to talk like you're real. Vanessa, you should know what a red flag that is in the 21st century. Maybe it's because of her immaturity, but yeah, you do not ask a teenage boy as an adult to get in your car. But Tom declines because he's waiting for Rochelle. And Vanessa responds, oh, it's okay. I'm Rochelle's mom.
Get in.
She says it with that tone drop. And then Tom gets in the car. Still not good. But Vanessa immediately begins the interrogation. And a subtle quick transition because she turns off her car and the light goes dark over Vanessa. Back into that interrogation room. I like how they keep repeating that. Okay, Tom, what are you involved in? I know you're corrupting my baby. And Tom responds, what? No, I just met your baby. I don't even know his name. Oh, not him. My Roshi. Rochelle. Oh, I am? Oh no. Yeah, that's how Tom responds of hearing like he corrupted Rochelle. I was like, oh no. It got a good laugh out of me. Just that sarcastic, like, pretending like he didn't know. The stupid, manipulative, leechy, peeping, crab-talling, admittedly clever responding Tom. And Vanessa immediately calls out the bull in these words and says she knows that he's been texting her. Tom responds, oh yeah, we're super close. I mean, I think we are. And interrupting his dialogue, I wish we could have gotten a Tom episode to see how legitimate he thought that statement was. People do deceive themselves through these kinds of scenarios to fill their loneliness. But getting back to him saying, I think we are close. Tom catches what he says about them being close, and he adds on, oh, not in that way, Miss Fan, I assure you. Unless she said otherwise. So there's a part of it, Tom. He wants the attention. Stupid, blah, 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 attention-seeking Tom. Vanessa is done playing around with him, and she jumps to the big question. Did you or did you not tell her to cheat? Tom tries to deflect back to them being close, and he shows a picture of them at a bonfire the previous week. This time, though, the deflection works, and Vanessa realizes that she didn't see that on Rochelle's social media account. Tom tells her that it probably is a burner account, and he clicks on her profile pic to show this. We get back into the cyber world, where Tom confirms that this account is a burner. Vanessa says it looks normal. It's like, why would you even say that? And the Rochelle avatar says, I love my mom, hashtag best mom, heart emoji, blah, blah, blah. But then Vanessa touches the avatar, and it falls over like a cardboard cutout. Great little detail. The idea that this account is a flat imitation of the real Rochelle on social media. And this ends up opening a door to another wall of the cyber world. And Vanessa finds a video of Rochelle twerking. Vanessa goes, she sent this to someone? Oh yeah, this is totally a real profile. And each room that Vanessa goes into shows more of Rochelle's secrets. The homework hustle, shown as her hitting a paper like a question block from Mario. Rochelle making it rain, saying, money, 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 all I care about is money. Which is probably not what Rochelle wrote, but how Vanessa's perceiving the accounts. And each of these rooms are just a bunch of fake accounts. And Vanessa drives through all of them with the same pink particles she had in her Uber times. The grand finale of this is Vanessa seeing the red Valkyries for sale. And she sees her daughter making a deal with a shady hooded avatar with red eyes. Cutting back to the real world, Vanessa asks, what is she involved in? She's meeting this internet rando in person? Zane leans into frame and yells, milk! You're right, Zane. She's gonna end up on a milk carton. Vanessa starts to break down in panic from all this. And so Tom decides that this is the perfect time to get out of the car and say his polite farewell. He says, okay, it was nice talking, we'll have a great day. And then he adds with expanded pupils, I wish you were my mom, before running off. What is going on in this teenager's life? Is he seeking approval from Rochelle and another girl later in the series because he has mommy issues? Poor, stupid, manipulative, leechy, peepee, needlessly preparing, but possibly hurting crab-walking Tom? Getting back to the story. Feeling down, Vanessa reaches for her phone, and she asks her heartswarms from the live stream to help her find Bad Boy 2023. And with this, the hearts fly off to investigate. And one immediately comes back with info that he's a teenager named Brian Dyson. Vanessa freaks out that he's a high schooler, and another heart tells her that she hasn't even taken his SAT yet, the real monstrous aspect of his personality. And heart 3 comes in with Rochelle's location, so Vanessa drives off, leading us straight into championship night. And just to let you know, that is the last time the heart swarm shows up. Again, I thought I was going to make this episode about craving validation from social media, but they were useful. They actually helped, and they weren't bad at all. So Lord, thank you for breaking my perception of what a live stream could look like. There seemed to be that genuine connection that was built there. I still stand by what I said about it being excessively used being a problem. Anything can be bad if it becomes an idol. But I gotta say, I do appreciate the show taking a nuanced, more positive look at the live stream, especially because from Vanessa's perspective, it was genuinely helping her through tough times. So that was really cool. Back to championship night. Vanessa is slowly driving through, stopping when she sees a scared Ira run across the road and away from the house. Ira was that kid over-explaining hot dogs in episode 3, and this takes place right after Rochelle runs from the teens, so it gives us a sad foreshadowing about the teens not wanting to play Smash with Ira, but we're going to get to that next episode. That's going to be another goofy episode filled with silly jokes for kids. Just you wait. Hearing loud music in the distance, Vanessa sees the party house, and from her perspective, the colors are filling every window in the Dane house, and the music is causing it to bop up and down with every bass beat, even causing the roof to pop off its panels occasionally. Zane starts to repeat to Vanessa by saying, "Party, party!" And Vanessa puts Zane to sleep by just wiping his face with one soft swoop. Putting Zane in a baby carrier, Vanessa stomps toward the house with clenched fists, and even knocks over garden gnomes. One that looks like a mother gnome holding the hand of a little gnome. And she breaks the hand holding them. Clever. With a sleeping Zane, she swings open the door to find slow-mo teenage chaos all throughout the house. Vanessa's horrified by the sight, especially one animal teen who wipes his pizza fingers on the couch and turns to smirk right at her. It is a legendary shot. That teen deserves slapped. But Vanessa freaks out by the mayhem going on and goes straight into parent mode. She makes room for Jesus with two teenagers using lightning hands. She throws away candy and soda, and she literally shoves a retainer back in a girl's mouth. Vanessa even shows up a kid's terrible TikTok dance moves with her own moves and says, "Learn how to dance!" After more interrogation with her phone flashlight through a movie and different teens watching it, a dude mishears Rochelle's name and goes, "Oh, you mean Rachel? I think she's upstairs." Vanessa heads for the stairs, and she gasps again because she's appalled by the assembly line of teenagers on the stairs leaning in for that awkward smooch. Like, I imagine this. Two teens are on each stair step, standing Pokemon trainer style, and they lean in for that kiss. It's like one stair, teens, other stair, teen, another stair, etc. It's just like this whole staircase is full of them. So Vanessa's Mama Thor mode breaks in as she pushes kids away from each other, marching up the stairs and yelling Rochelle's full name, telling her to get her butt downstairs. Vanessa charges up roughly 4 flights of stairs, which probably wasn't that big, but probably was just showing how numerous and crowded the stairs felt to Vanessa in this moment. And the whole time she's yelling, 6 feet apart, kiss with your minds! She finally reaches the top of the stairs, and seeing a closed door with the lights on, Vanessa goes berserk. Her mama instincts go on to the next level. Her loose hair strands start standing like she's a Super Saiyan. She levitates off the ground with green lightning, and she flies toward that room in fury. She smashes her head through the door and finds Odo the Soda Prophet downing his second liter of orange soda. He stops in the middle of this chugging and tells her without turning his head, "Answer the call of the unknown." And then burps. As Vanessa walks down the stairs, defeated and sad, The camera is focused on two teenage girls talking. One of them in a skirt says, "Real empathy encompasses an emotional spectrum of interpersonal phenomena, and you, deserve better." Vanessa interrupts the girls to ask if they've seen Rochelle, showing a picture of her on her phone. "She's got big braids, she's a little younger than you all. How old are you all anyway?" The teen shoots back, "Well, how old are you, Miss 20 Questions?" "Well, I'm 30, because today is my birthday. Thank you very much." Dang. This poor woman has been so lost trying to figure out what's going on with her daughter that she didn't even get to celebrate her special day. Not to mention that she's been working this whole time. Again, another moment where my perception of her was shot down, because birthdays are one of those beautiful moments where someone gets to be highlighted, celebrated that God placed them on the earth. And this whole day has been pushed aside because Vanessa needed to be a mom. But hearing this, the teens immediately shift into yelling, "Happy birthday!" until the other teen realizes she's eaten real cheese on a pizza slice. And we cut to her vomiting in the sink. As Vanessa helps the girl, a spotlight shines again from the countertop onto the orange soda. The same orange soda that Odo was chugging, possibly signifying that Vanessa is fulfilling Odo's words. The vomiting makes the teen girl go existential and basically act like she's drunk, going, "What am I doing?" And this gives Vanessa the opportunity to open up herself. "What am I doing? I got one kid who's got an insatiable taste for human flesh, and the other who's running a little cheating empire. I thought Rochelle was the one thing in my life I was doing right, but now she's lying to me? I don't want her to end up like me." There's a lot of powerful stuff to unpack in just those last two sentences. I just love Vanessa's honesty. And honestly, this might be her first moment of self-awareness to her lifestyle. The other teen girl with the skirt who dropped that philosophy question responds, "I mean, you're here. My mom doesn't even care where I am. So, maybe you're a good mom." And maybe Vanessa is. Or more accurately, she's a mom who's legitimately trying despite her flaws. So with a smile of gratitude, Vanessa hears the pizza girl realize that she did see Rochelle. And Vanessa talks to this hungover, whatever, tapped out pizza girl and talks to her like a dog. "Oh, where did she go, girl? Where did she go?" And then the blonde girl says that she left the party, which Vanessa's excited about, and realizes that she probably headed toward the championship game. And then the pizza teen says, "Yeah, she left with some guy." Oh dear. Mama mode comes back full force as we hear a quiet tea kettle whistle behind Vanessa. She declares that this is enough. She tries to push her way through the crowd of partying teens to leave, but they literally crowd surf her away from the door. So Vanessa grabs the Bluetooth speaker they've been using, smashes it on the floor, and goes, "Escúndeme! This party is over! You need to go home now, or I'm going to call all of your parents!" All the teens gasp, except for one kid who leans in to say, "Well, I'm a ward of the state." I don't know who you are, but rock on, boy. Vanessa's phone buzzes, and seeing that it's an unknown caller, the audience and Vanessa both realize it's Rochelle. Unfortunately, this moment of distraction allows the teenage boy on the stairs to yoink the phone and play keep away with another boy at the bottom of the stairs. They keep tossing it back and forth away from Vanessa, and this works for a few throws, but in a slow motion moment, Vanessa hears Rochelle yell, "Mom," over the phone. But what's interesting is that the phone hasn't been picked up yet. We'll see her pick up the phone later, so I'm guessing this was Vanessa's maternal instincts strongly believing this was Rochelle and realizing her baby's in trouble. And that gives Vanessa the drive to precisely jab the upstairs teen with 2 fingers like she was Master Freaking Oogway and send him back with lightning. She then juggles the phone from slipping in that way where something's about to fall and you're like, and it's bouncing off your hand. The teens start cheering when it falls, but then Zane catches it with his teeth and they go, "Oh," like they're the Wii Sport audience. It's amazing. So Vanessa picks up the phone, and then we cut to the bleak gray outside that Rochelle was running in, and Vanessa flies towards her daughter like a superhero. a streak of pink going behind her. And while we know Vanessa used her car, I like this visual representation that she's coming like a heroic mother to save her daughter. So we find Rochelle crumbled on the ground next to the payphone, where she was at the end of last episode. Her world is still floating and in chaos, and Rochelle's just lost at rock bottom. But then Vanessa's car arrives, and when Rochelle sees her, she runs straight to her mother's arms. And in a beautiful shot, we see Rochelle parkour around her floating world. And we even get a shot where Rochelle's world of chaos and floating's on the left, and Vanessa's more stable world is on the right. So as Rochelle leaps from floating stone tablets, she glides into her mother's arms, crossing the threshold, meeting her halfway like the song from last episode's Sun. And when they hug, Rochelle's world finally goes back into place. There's a quiet moment as Rochelle cries into her mother's arms. And then looking toward her daughter, we cut to black, and Vanessa says, "So, we need to talk." And we're slowly brought out of the episode as the song Your Heart Is My Home by Francie Richard and Campfire once again is playing. And this might be my favorite song they've played so far. It beautifully speaks to how no matter what happens, the lyrics literally say, the walls may collapse, the floorboards shake, the windows may break, but the singer will carry the keys wherever they go because their heart is their home. A beautiful representation of Vanessa's heart for her daughter. And despite her mess-ups or what happens, Vanessa's always going to be there for her. And that's what I've ultimately grown to appreciate about this episode. As I've said multiple times, my perception of Vanessa's heart throughout the series was knocked down in this episode. And instead of seeing her as just this really harsh, almost antagonistic person, I got to see her as a real person. Vanessa truly loves her daughter. She truly loves her son. And despite how we've seen her from Rochelle's point of view, and even from that little interaction she had with Frank in episode 2, Vanessa's heart is first and foremost for her children. And she is trying to be the best mother she can be. And with that said, it's also necessary to analyze her heart with the actions we've seen through her life so far. The intentions of our heart doesn't justify the actions we see. Even if we're trying to do something good, that doesn't excuse if we do something bad. Someone may have a good intention of feeding their hungry children, but if they steal to gain that food, that doesn't make the crime okay. And the funny thing is, I actually had a lot planned to write about Vanessa's shortcomings as a parent. I had a whole 3 pages, I think, showing the lack of Vanessa's discipline toward her kids, and I was ready to dive into what the Bible says about the necessity for discipline. For open rebuke is better than hidden love, as Proverbs 27 verse 5 says. I was also ready to start digging into how Vanessa might need to properly spend time with Rochelle and actually be with her instead of just cheering her on and giving her too much independence. And even though I just listed off the outline version of these things and I was ready to fully dive into it, here's what I think the Holy Spirit made me realize. Why am I, Noel Davison, trying to invest so much time into breaking down Vanessa Rodriguez's flaws? On the one hand, I think it's because Vanessa's a fictional character, and like every other character we've seen in this show, there's a lot we can learn about our own lives through her story. And on the other hand, because I've grown to deeply care about characters like Frank and Rochelle, and seeing how they've been hurt made me frustrated at Vanessa. So I was ready to take off my metaphorical earrings or maybe get the bat and ski mask like that one mom had in episode 2 and go to town on Vanessa's faults. I was ready to be like, all right, here is what you've been doing wrong. Here is how you've been failing as a parent, and I'm ready to dissect that. And that's because I relate to Frank's story and to Rochelle's. But if I'm being completely honest, it's not my place to dissect Vanessa's faults because I don't connect to her story as much. Now, there are traits in episode 4 that I think we can talk about. I think we can all relate to the feeling of trying to do so much to support others and care for them that it drains us. We can all relate to trying to find a stable job, be there for our loved ones, and trying to find ways to de-stress from the exhausting pressure of life, which we see through Vanessa's heart swarms, because the social media is not, it might be an obsession, but what the show is revealing to us in episode 4 is that the heart swarms actually are a coping mechanism. They help her deal with the larger than life problems and help her calm down, feel more confident to take them on. But with all that said, I'm not a parent, nor am I a single mother, nor am I a woman who to a large degree is responsible for caring for 2 human lives. I just don't know what that looks like, what that feels like. But the beautiful thing about that is that even though it didn't connect for me, there are so many other people that this episode will connect with. And for those who are actually parents who know the pressure of trying to figure out what it means to be a good parent, I think this is really going to hit home for them, just like connecting to that struggle that a young lady has in navigating being a mother, what Vanessa feels like in that. And I think that's the message I want to take away from this episode, from my own perspective, as I go into life, as I interact with single parents. I think what I can take away from this, even if I don't know how to navigate like where Vanessa went wrong and what would actually make her a better parent, maybe instead I can leave this episode saying, okay, just like the rest of us, single parents are flawed, but it's not my job to correct them. It's not my job to tell them their flaws. I know I'm not the right person to dissect Vanessa's struggles. I've sat with what Odo the Soda Prophet meant when he encouraged Vanessa to answer the call to the unknown, and I feel okay admitting I don't know what that call is, because I'm not the right person to interpret what that means for Vanessa's heart. You know, maybe one day the Lord will allow me to bring on somebody who will understand Vanessa's struggles, and we can talk about Vanessa's character arc. I think it'd be fun to do an episode maybe over her character specifically in the future, but only if I'm able to bring on somebody who can understand her in a way that I simply can't. I'm a single dude nearing his mid-20s. My perspective on Vanessa convicts my heart not to try and fix, but understand, to empathize with her. And that's why I've grown to like the crazy complex line from that one teenage girl near the end of the episode, where she says, real empathy encompasses an emotional spectrum of interpersonal phenomena. And if I can try and make a simple translation of that, I think that means truly caring for somebody else is made up of thousands of little puzzle pieces. Some of them are the messy puzzle pieces of our life, and they mix with the messy puzzle pieces of another person's life. We're all learning how to solve our puzzles, to find the pieces that fit, that make the most sense for how to complete our picture, which could be how we parent, how we act, what we believe, and many other things. We're all trying to learn and navigate our lives, organize our messy box of emotional issues, of puzzle pieces, and past mistakes. And that's the result of being born with sinful nature, that our handcrafted soul from God, our amazing, beautiful qualities, like Vanessa's quality, to bring radiant positivity to people, to be a superhero for people's lives. Even the heart of being a good mother has been corrupted by sin. We're left disjointed and confused, and we're trying to navigate our way back to who God made us to be. And of course, we need God for that, but putting that heavenly lens on Vanessa's character. I think it's important for me to say in this idea of admitting I don't understand Vanessa's character, I could say that about literally every other character. I could say, well, because Lori is a young teenage girl and I've never been a young teenage girl, then it's not my place to really comment on this. But I don't think that's what I'm doing here. I don't think I'm just trying to cop out from a complex lesson, because I have related to Lori and anxiety and trying to pursue faith in God over that. I related to Frank with having a fragile heart and knowing how to guard it. I've related to Rochelle of the pain of the world and the pressure of it getting to me, and I sin as my way to try and understand it when I'm not pointing myself towards God. But I'm okay admitting that for this specific circumstance, I don't understand Vanessa's problem. I don't have the proper advice to give for those listening. Having a podcast called Adonai in Art doesn't make me an expert on every piece of art or what it discusses. It's not my place. I'm just a fan of art, and I'm trying to put my 2 cents out there that I think God has revealed to me. And so for those listening who might fit more into my category, where we don't fully understand the pressure of trying to become a good mother, we're not educated in this part of life, we haven't experienced the trials of this, I think our job, what I would encourage you to do when we are faced with these moments, is that we should just listen. This episode is telling me that Vanessa isn't perfect, but she is trying her darndest to be a mother. She is putting everything into trying to raise her children right. So instead of me trying to be an expert on a subject I know little about, I'm going to react to the episode with my limited point of view. And I'm just going to listen to try and understand Vanessa's perspective. And yes, she is a fictional character, but there are many people in life right now that are going through what Vanessa's going through, who act like Vanessa, whose personalities are very similar because the characters in this series are written so well to emulate real people and real conflicts. And it makes me think, what would it look like if we as Christians decided that even though we want to be right in a topic, we want to put our 2 cents out there, what if we were willing to admit we don't fully understand certain subjects and we choose to listen to them? We seek to understand rather than correct. And yes, that's not meaning that we shy away from truth. If we have a subject we are able to talk even a little bit about where we know the truth of God should be talked about, then we keep our Matthew 7:24 foundation, our house built on the rock. We comment where we're qualified to, even if it's just a little bit. We don't need to be experts on every subject, but there are some subjects that require deep, complex thinking, that require wisdom in a very specific field, and I just don't have that for this. This all comes down to humility. The reason I believe so strongly in that is because the one person, the one being who doesn't need to be humble and compassionate to others on these different circumstances and different struggles, chooses to be. What am I talking about? When John the Baptist was killed by Herod, this was Jesus's cousin. And it was also likely one of Jesus's closest family members and friends. The scripture doesn't really tell us that, but we can see from the sorrow Jesus had from John's death that these two must have been close. John literally leaped in his mother's womb because of his excitement, knowing like, hey, my cousin, the Lord, is literally in Mary's stomach right now. He loved him. And so Jesus went off on a boat to go to a desolate place to himself, likely to grieve and spend time with his heavenly Father. And yet a vast crowd of over 5,000 followed Jesus to where he was. They might not have known what was going on. Maybe they did. And this probably was because they were wanting to see more miracles from this amazing preacher who they've heard can heal blind men, who's cast out demons. Like, who is this guy? We gotta spend more time with him. And Matthew 14 verse 14 tells us that when Jesus went ashore, he saw a great crowd. He didn't even get the chance in that moment to have time with his Father. And honestly, Jesus could have rebuked the crowd for this. Maybe he could have said, I am in intense pain right now. Don't you know man needs his silence and solitude to process tragedy? I am not here to be your magic man and do these things for you. But that's not what Jesus did. Instead, Scripture tells us that when Jesus saw the crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. In another part of the book of Matthew, chapter 9, verse 36, Jesus saw the crowds around him, and he knew his people. He grew up in this environment with the Roman Empire, with the flaws the Jewish people had, the Pharisees. And yes, we know that he had his 2 cents, his 50,000 cents to give to the Pharisees. But when he saw the people, he didn't start correcting their flaws, even though he would have known exactly what to address. Instead, Jesus, when looking at the crowds, had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. So if the Lord himself chose to have compassion instead of immediately rebuking people, immediately correcting situations, because again, guys, this is the same God who saw Matthew in a tax booth, and Jesus immediately could have said, "You are a Jewish man taking money from your brethren to give to this empire that is ruling over us. Shame on you, you dirty sinner." He could have said that to Matthew, but we know what happened. Because scripture tells us, Matthew himself wrote that Jesus said, "Matthew, follow me." And then they had a meal together. And I think the Lord's kindness and his compassion towards his son Matthew is the reason we have this giant, amazing book, the Gospel of Matthew, because the Lord's heart for him far surpassed the Lord's desire to possibly rebuke or correct, because God is a loving God. All his rebuke, all his wrath stems from the core of pure agape love. And so I want to emulate my Lord when looking at the character of Vanessa. I want to share compassion for those who are struggling and sit with their pain and sit with the messy struggle of being a single mother that Vanessa has, instead of looking at those mistakes that I immediately, like I said, I had those mistakes. I wanted to talk about them, but now I'm realizing that's not my place to talk about what she did wrong or how she could improve, because I don't fully know. Unlike Jesus, who would definitely know what to say to Vanessa about being a single mother and her flaws about being prideful or lack of discipline, anything of that category, Jesus would know what he was talking about. I wouldn't. I would definitely need correction and rebuke for whatever I might have said, because I probably would have said something wrong or maybe hurtful. But in my 2 cents, if there's anything I could say to any parent who might be listening to this, all who are struggling with parenting, maybe being a single parent, I want to say this: you're doing great. There's no perfect formula to how parenting works. There is no perfect parent that has ever lived. The only perfect parent is the one who lives forever, our Heavenly Father. And in preparing for this episode, I texted my parents, who I consider through their flaws to be wonderful, wonderful people who have raised me well. I texted them asking in regards to discipline, because again, originally that's what I was wanting to talk about. And what my dad said in terms of parenting, he said, "Mom and I practiced best as we can parenting." And he continued, "As cheesy as it sounds, you just try to be like Jesus. When you don't, you tell them, the kids, you messed up and need to be forgiven." And my mom said in regards to how they parented me and my sisters, "We always just tried to put God first and go from there." So for the Vanessas out there who might listen to this episode, I would want to encourage you, if there's any advice I could give right now, to follow what my parents said. They have a better idea of what they're talking about. They say, be like God. Live and act like Jesus. When you mess up, you learn and you go forward. So for those parents, emulate your Heavenly Father, who cares for you perfectly, and you will know what to do. You will be taught what to do. Everything will be okay. And for those who aren't parents, let's listen. Let's care for those who are struggling in this circumstance. And let's learn. So that way we may be better equipped in the future to tackle these things. And so for now, everybody, parents, non-parents alike, let us remember that in all of this, at the core of this, above everything God made, he was happiest when he made you. And with that, I want to thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, I would deeply appreciate if you left a positive rating, shared it with someone who you might think hear this. You know, if someone out there does know a single parent, then could you send this episode to them? I would love to hear their feedback, and who knows, maybe I could bring them onto the podcast and we could talk about Vanessa's character. My email is also in the show notes if you want to connect with me, if you want to connect me to that potential single parent, give any feedback on the episode. And also, I'm just going to say, as a specific part for the Win or Lose series, I am going to finish this series. I'm hoping to get it done before the summer ends and I can take my time to sit down, watch through all the episodes and do the editing process. But I know I'm probably not doing Win or Lose Wednesdays, like that kind of format of like an episode on Wednesday and Friday. I'm not doing that again. I think I knew starting it that it was going to be a challenge, and it has been one that has been harder than I thought. So I'm going to keep making episodes, and I'm going to strive to make these as good as I possibly can. But because of that, I am definitely stopping my weekly structure of Wednesday episodes and Fridays. I'm just going to stick to Fridays. But I promise that I am going to finish my Win or Lose series, and I am going to keep pushing through, especially because these next few episodes I have been hyping up for myself and a couple times in these episodes because they are powerful. Or maybe a better way to set you up for it is prepare for more goofy episodes filled with silly jokes for kids. But until then, may the God of peace himself sanctify you completely, and may your whole spirit, soul, and body be kept blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. Grace be with you all.